What if everything we thought we knew about ancient civilizations was wrong? What if, deep in the Amazon rainforest, a place long considered untouched, wild, and uncivilized, lies a forgotten world built by hands that mastered geometry, astronomy, and perhaps even the secrets of the mind? Why are massive geometric structures appearing beneath the trees? Who made them? And why does mainstream archaeology refuse to investigate them further?
What I see in the Amazon is traces of a lost science, a scientific mindset.
This isn't fantasy. This is the Amazon. And these are the questions Graham Hancock dares to ask. The Amazon basin stretches across 6.7 million square kilometers. It's one of the most biodiverse ecosystems on Earth. But beneath its dense canopy, recent discoveries are shaking the foundation of our historical understanding. In the state of Acre, southwestern Brazil, deforestation revealed something completely unexpected. Shapes, circles, squares, rectangles, and octagons etched into the earth, often spanning hundreds of meters. These aren't modern constructions. They are ancient, possibly thousands of years old. And they're not random. They're precise, the kind of precision you'd expect from engineers, not hunter-gatherers. These are known as geoglyphs, massive geometrical earthworks, but they're not isolated. Researchers have found over 450 of them in this region alone, and that's just what we've uncovered so far. Most of the Amazon remains unscanned, unexplored, and untouched.
These things really, on the old view of the Amazon, shouldn't exist. They involve enormous expenditure of effort. Creating these earthworks is a huge job.
How were these massive shapes created in such a challenging environment? Who coordinated the labor? Who designed the layout? Mainstream archaeology still clings to an outdated belief that the Amazon was too harsh for large civilizations, that it was only ever home to scattered, simple tribes. But what if that's completely wrong?
I think the story's going to go back further and further into the past.
Graham Hancock, author of Fingerprints of the Gods, believes we're looking at evidence of a lost civilization, a culture with a scientific mindset, an understanding of geometry, and a spiritual connection to nature. Take the site of Fazenda Sipo, for instance. An octagon with rounded corners, and near it a massive oval surrounding a square. This isn't accidental. This is intentional design, almost architectural in nature. Then there's Jako Sa, where a perfect square surrounds a circle, resembling the ancient concept of squaring the circle, a philosophical and mathematical pursuit seen in ancient Greece and even in the construction of sacred spaces in Egypt and India. But these shapes aren't just geometrical, they may be astronomical. Two of the largest sites, Fazenda Paraná and Severino Calazans, are aligned to true astronomical north, not magnetic north. That requires a deep understanding of the stars. The site at Severino Calazans, for example, has a footprint nearly identical to that of the Great Pyramid of Giza, not in material, but in scale.
I'm drawing attention here to Severino Calazans, this large square on the left there, which has coincidentally the same footprint as the Great Pyramid of Giza. It just shows you the size of that enormous earthwork.
And like the pyramid, it may have served a purpose beyond the physical, perhaps spiritual, ceremonial, or cosmological. But if these aren't temples or homes, what were they? According to indigenous oral traditions, these geoglyphs were used for shamanic ceremonies.
They say that they were for shamanic journeying, that the population would gather within them, that there would be certain areas that might be reserved for the shamans. For example, the square on the left, those two cut-out areas, top left and right of that square, it suggested that shamans were in there and the rest of the population were in the other area, and they were undertaking visionary journeys, perhaps using ayahuasca. Of course, the Amazonian peoples are experts in the properties of indigenous plants.
Large gatherings where people consumed ayahuasca, a powerful psychedelic brew, to enter altered states of consciousness. Elders from the Ashaninka and other tribes speak of these places with reverence. They say the people would gather in these giant enclosures. The shamans would occupy special sections, perhaps the cutouts or central zones, and guide the community through visions. The geometric shapes seen during ayahuasca ceremonies, spirals, fractals, repeating symmetrical patterns, closely resemble the layout of these ancient earthworks. Coincidence or intentional design? In altered states, the mind perceives beyond the material. Geometry becomes alive. Patterns become gateways. And in the Amazon, these patterns may have been encoded into the land itself. This is not just speculation.
They also show the kind of entities that are seen in ayahuasca visions. They show the same sort of patterns, the same geometric patterns that are seen in ayahuasca. It literally an 8-kilometer Sistine Chapel in the Colombian Amazon. That's the other thing. I mentioned there's not a lot of rock in the Amazon. Where there is rock, they used it. There's rock paintings all over the Amazon where rock is available.
In the Colombian Amazon, in a remote area called Serranía de la Lindosa, researchers uncovered something even more shocking: an 8-kilometer-long rock wall covered in paintings over 12,000 years old. These aren't just animals. They depict extinct megafauna, giant sloths, mastodons, ice age species. And more curiously, they show abstract shapes and humanoid forms that bear a striking resemblance to the entities and patterns people report seeing during ayahuasca journeys. Did ancient Amazonian peoples explore consciousness through plant medicine and document their experiences in both art and landscape? And if so, what knowledge were they trying to pass on? At Göbekli Tepe in modern-day Turkey, dated to 11,600 years ago, megalithic stone circles show signs of astronomical alignment and sophisticated carvings. In Chauvet Cave, France, 36,000-year-old paintings include possible constellations. Even the famous Lascaux caves depict bulls with 6 dots above their shoulders, which some researchers believe represent the Pleiades star cluster in Taurus. Mainstream archaeologists reject these ideas. They insist that astronomy was discovered by the Greeks or Mesopotamians just a few thousand years ago.
The discovery of the constellations of the zodiac is given to the Greeks or perhaps to the Mesopotamians before the Greeks. It's not thought that any human culture could have noticed the constellations of the zodiac before that, and that's really absurd because the constellations of the zodiac are on the path of the sun. The sun rises against the background of a different constellation every month. And how would the ancients have missed that, especially since the skies were an ever-present phenomenon to them in a way that they are not to us.
Right.
We're cut off from the skies by light pollution, but the ancients were not.
But how could the ancients have missed it? The sun rises in a different constellation every month. The night sky is a giant celestial clock. To ancient people, without modern light pollution, the stars were like scripture. Graham Hancock argues that this global ancient awareness points to a pre-cataclysmic civilization, one wiped out perhaps during the Younger Dryas period, around 12,800 years ago, by a global disaster. The survivors? They may have passed on fragments of their knowledge, through myth, through ritual, through geometry in the jungle. And now, thanks to LIDAR, a technology that scans beneath forest canopy using lasers, we're finally seeing what's been hidden for millennia. The question is, are we ready to accept it? Why does mainstream academia resist these ideas? Why is there such pushback against the possibility that ancient civilizations were far more advanced than we ever imagined? Is it because the implications are too big? Because it would mean rewriting history, rethinking progress, reconsidering who we are and where we come from? Perhaps the Amazon still holds the answers, but only if we're willing to look, only if we're willing to listen to the voices of those who came before, not with steel and concrete, but with spirit, vision, and sacred geometry carved into the living earth.